Hello, my beautiful friends. We're back at camp for our third campfire story. And once again, I am inside because it's so hot, a little hot to be around a campfire. So I'm actually going to continue today with what came up from the prompt yesterday. And I want to shout out to Beth Bolton for prompting me to go deeper into this, because after I looked at the post again and I realized there was a really important component that I hadn't touched on. And so Beth's comment gave me an opportunity to come back and tell another story, expand on my campfire story. For those of people who didn't have a chance to read my response to Beth's comment. So we're going to pick up today with this story yesterday of betrayal, right? I started with a story of rape, my experience of rape, but it turned into a bigger story around betrayal, and in particular women's betrayal of each other. My experiences of having been betrayed by women, and I know that resonates with really all women, and that's what I want to speak to today. But before I jump into that piece, what I want to add about my own experience is the way that I try to live my life when I'm being conscious and aware is, if something comes up, if I get triggered, if I want to go into blame, they did this to me, I might feel that for a bit. And it's my desire to then come back to a place to say, okay, source is always has my back. This is coming up at this point in my life for a reason. And while it's painful and hurtful and very easy to point the finger at someone else, the truth is there's growth and learning and reframing and moving of energy, old stories, that's important for me right now. And so that's what I did with the most recent experience. I wasn't quite evolved enough to do it with some of the earlier experiences, but I was able to do it with the most recent experience. And so, yes, I had my, meltdowns, my tears, my pointing the finger. I had to talk to a couple of people about it. And then I started to do some tapping, which, as you know, tapping, emotional freedom technique, is one of my favorite go-to tools for both moving old dense energy out, making space for something new, and in the process, clearing and helping to reframe something. It sort of automatically sort of changes the story in the brain, or allows, for me anyway, and in my work with clients, it allows for some aha moment. So I took this tapping experience a little further by then inviting a number of questions that I journaled on and then tapped on to move the energy. And those, because I always want to look at what is my part in this, there were several questions that I asked. I'm probably not remembering them all now, but I know for sure that I asked, when else have I felt betrayed, right? Because betrayal seemed to be a pattern. So I'm sure there were other places where it was showing up in my life. And there were some things that quite surprised me when they came up. And I'm not even remembering all of them right now. But two of the things related that I was surprised at was that the early passing of my parents in some ways got imprinted as a betrayal. In my experience, that they left me too soon, that no one really shared honestly with me about what was happening. so that I felt like it came out of left field, and that felt like a betrayal because I wasn't prepared, especially for my mom's passing, at 22, and just a few years later, my dad's passing. So that was one of the questions I asked and worked through. When else have I felt betrayed? So I could move more of that energy. The more energy we move out of our system that's been held right in the subconscious, in our energy field, the less likely it is that we're going to attract it to ourselves over and over again. As we're learning the lessons, we don't need the teacher to show up again, right? So another question that I asked myself was, when have I betrayed others? Right? So that's not an easy question to ask yourself. But it's an important one because, in life, we experience all aspects of things. So we can be both the perpetrator and the victim or the observer, but chances are, whether it's in this lifetime or any other, we have played all the roles. So asking myself the question, when have I betrayed others, also brought up experiences that, needless to say, I didn't feel very good about. And the one that was most prominent for me was the end of my 30-year marriage. There were some ways that I behaved, although I was trying to be conscious and trying to be in my highest self. It was 15 years ago now, and I was where I was on my path, and there were some things that I did that I know were hurtful, and had I been in a different state of mind myself, I would have done differently than the way I did them. So, things came up for clearing there, and being able to say, yes, I was not acting, in my highest self or whatever it was, but then also being able to offer forgiveness for myself in the pain I was in, doing the best I could in a situation that I had never imagined. For 20 years, if anyone had asked, I would never have imagined that I would have made a choice to leave that marriage because it was a good marriage. So that's another question. When have I, betrayed others? And then finally, when have I betrayed myself? How often do we betray ourselves? We don't listen to our intuition. We do things against our better judgment. We put ourselves in situations that are not safe. There's a whole host of ways that we, I think, as women, betray ourselves, even allowing ourselves to feel our own emotions for whatever reasons we do that, given whatever set of experiences we grew up in, whatever soul journey we've taken to the point, that's gotten us here. So I really wanted to come back and share that piece with you because I didn't want to just leave it at, oh, poor me, these things happened, and I felt betrayed. I didn't want that energy to sort of be the energy that you may have been left with. I really wanted to come back and speak about this as an opportunity for growth, right? With this belief that the universe always has my back, spirit is always supporting me. And so even when something very difficult comes up, like a sense of having been betrayed by a group of women who I felt were my spiritual family, and in fact, on a soul level they brought this up collectively for me to dive deeper into my own work, right? So anyway, that was the piece that I wanted to share. And while I'm sharing that, one of the things that I responded to Beth's comment, because Beth said, she has cut a lot of women out of her life as a result of cattiness or gossip or, betrayal. And, I think most of us can relate to that. We just stop associating with people, or whether we have a fight or whether we just, fade quietly away, we make choices to disconnect or stay away from other women. And I understand that as a protective mechanism. I've certainly done it myself, but I want to just touch on the point that this splitting off from other women is also part of the sister wound, right? And I alluded to this yesterday, and I wrote some things down. Actually, it was in a recent email from Tanya. I'm just forgetting her name. She does the Global Sisterhood. And she had just written a post on this sister wound. And, it really was very resonant with everything that I believe, that all of the ways in which women are set up against each other or treat each other, whether we're competing with each other for limited resources like a promotion or a husband or, the best house, whatever it might happen to be, competition, this sense of constant comparison or jealousy, right? That we seem to get caught up into, the cattiness and the gossip that I've already mentioned, commiseration, sort of the ganging up as what it felt like happened to me, or a group in around that rape experience, where the group of women, teenage girls, they're all sort of commiserated around a certain story that they made up or chose to believe about me, and there was no space for me to be invited in to share what happened, explain it from my point of view or whatever. So there's this sort of ganging up experience. And then individually, I think then there's a sense of contraction, right? We get small, we pull inward, we hide ourselves, we don't want to be vulnerable. Even cutting ourselves off from other women, hi Beth, is a symptom of that. We just contract and our energy pulls in, and we make our circle, we make our power, we make our magic, we make ourselves smaller because it feels vulnerable and unsafe for us to be in the world. And I really just want to bring this all back to this being a system of cultural conditioning. This, my loves, is the patriarchy. This is what happened when men took over power and began to set women up against each other, burn women at the stake, banish women from their communities, right? And used women as examples, witches or medicine women or midwives, oracles, whoever we were in our leadership was defiled, rape, torture, burned at the stake. All of this happened to us. All of this happened to us. And for those of us who were in perhaps even more visible positions of leadership in our community were made examples of. And other women clearly got the message that if they spoke up, they were going to have the same thing happen. Right? Almost like the Catholic school experience, right? That's again, another patriarchal system. And even the nuns are part of that system. So women are part of the patriarchy in the sense that we've lived in the soup of it. We've taken on the rules of it. We've been made small and suppressed by the rules of the patriarchy and the punishment that has been forced upon us. I've had, and I don't have time right now. I actually have a client in like 10 minutes to go into all the stories, but I have had very vivid past life experiences of being stoned, tortured, imprisoned, raped, banished from my community, burned at the stake. There's no doubt in my mind that my past lives have included all of those things. And in fact, when I first started the coaching aspect of my business, not so much the therapy, but when I had opened my healing center and was wanting to grow my coaching, one time I was journaling about why I was sort of reluctant to step up and step out. And what came through loud and clear was that I was hesitant to invite women to follow me, because in my past lives, when women had followed me, they had suffered the consequences of following me. And I've done a lot of healing around that, feeling responsible for the rape, the torture, the death, the humiliation, the degradation of women who followed me in some way. So this sister wound is not new. This fear of stepping up and being a leader is real, because in the past, when we have stood up to lead, all of those things have happened to us. Women were used as examples. And there's many layers to peel off around this. This could happen with friends. And when you step into leadership, it can happen with people, calling you out online, people sending you terrible emails about what an awful person you are. I remember writing one day in my journaling that my fear was that I was going to be, if I tried to step up, I would be seen as a fraud and a charlatan and someone who was just in this to, make money and take advantage of people. And that's what people were going to call me and how they were going to see me. And that I had this vision of being, like up in Salem or up in Boston somewhere, in stocks, made a laughing stock of in the community, because I was trying to pass myself off as some teacher, healer, wise woman. And I was dragged out and called out and put on display for doing that. So these layers go very, very, very deep. Which is exactly why it's so important for us at this time in our evolution, in this time in our ascension process, when the energy of the divine feminine is really being grounded more into the planet, when the energy of all of the gifts that the feminine hold, compassion, intuition, exclusion, creativity, right? Spirituality, all of the beautiful qualities and traits and values and innate, our ability to see and sense and hear and feel and know the truth of something. All of this is being anchored on the planet now. And this is exactly why we need to be really intentional, or I'm going to invite you to be really intentional about this sister wound relationship and how that's showing up for you and how you might heal that in yourself so that we can begin to heal it together. Because this is both an individual wound and a collective wound. And if we are true in our desire to want to bring the feminine back into balance with the masculine, right? To bring this feminine energy to balance out this egoic masculine that has been driving us from a terrible place for the last 2,000 or so years. We need to be super intentional about this. We need to learn to trust ourselves, heal our own wounds so that we trust ourselves, our instincts, our intuition, our inner knowing. And then we can begin to trust other women. We need to look for opportunities for collaboration and partnership where we are consciously open to healing this wound of the feminine, this mother wound, this sister wound. So, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I am so excited to be doing these campfire stories with you. We've finished 3, 7 to go. And I hope they're inspiring you. I would love you to, as Beth did yesterday, that helped me speak to this more today. Put your comments below and share your experience if you feel comfortable. But I look forward to hearing from you and seeing you again soon. All right, beautiful souls. Have a good night. Bye now.